Actually, hey, oh wait, that ain't Neil. Hey Jake, how's it going?
Good, Cal. How are you, man?
All right, good, man. Good. Here we are at the Pearl Jam show at Deer Creek venue in Indiana, Noblesville, Indiana. And look who we found in the parking lot, just tooling around by chance. We got Chris Maliszewski.
No, say it. The better way. Yeah, I didn't let anybody in here, right? Chris
Maliszewski.
Yeah, I love it.
So, Chris, thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. I was telling my dad on the way up, fair enough, I've done a lot of, interviews and podcasts, and I have my own, of course, but, I'm fucking stoked to be doing this. This is my element.
Right.
So, besides when I'm with my kids and I'm with my family, and, this is where I'm happiest most. Mm-hmm. So, to capture this, thank you for letting me capture this moment, man. This is
100%.
Awesome.
So, the story of how we met's kind of a unique, funny one.
Yeah.
When I started,
swiped right.
Pretty much, right? It was almost like online dating. LinkedIn, who knew?
Yeah.
No, but it was funny because LinkedIn's actually where I started, kind of two dudes, where I first dipped my toe in the water and put some posts, and I saw people were reacting to it. So that's when I made a decision, and that was really where I kind of started everything. And I happened to come across a post of yours, and all I noticed was you had a PJ hat on. And I think all I said was, hey, is that a Pearl Jam hat? And then I noticed your last name was exactly the same as mine, except it's an M instead of a K, which we've learned, Maliszewski. So somewhere along the line, they've obviously changed something.
Blame my dad.
It's this guy's fault.
Yeah, we have Chris's dad, Richie, I think is going to join us here in a little bit too. So anyway, we just started kind of talking back and forth, and back then it was only a month or so before this show was going to happen. It was supposed to be September 10th of 23, and me and my brother-in-law John were heading down about 45 minutes into the drive, and I got this alert that it was canceled.
I know.
And I'm like, what the fuck?
Dude, I was literally pulling into the Holiday Inn Express right down the road where I was going to stay, and I called to cancel my room, and they're like, the show's not canceled, and I'm like, think again. And luckily they were panicking, and I said, and they let me cancel my room, but unfortunately a lot of other Pearl Jam fans in the community, they didn't have the same fate. Right. They had to pay for their rooms. It sucks.
It definitely pays to be number one sometimes.
Exactly, yeah.
So our plan was eventually to meet there and just have a beer or whatever, and then that was postponed, and it took a while for them to even announce when it was going to be.
Sure.
So in that time, we just kept kind of talking to each other online or whatever until a few weeks ago we actually ran into each other at Lollapalooza.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say ran in, man. It was
intentional. It was planned.
I was looking forward to meeting you. Come on. That's what you told your wife, right? Oh, God, look at, here's this guy.
When's the wedding?
Yeah. Well, truth be told, Cal's right. Obviously, when you have people with a lot of similar interests, right, and that you have same upbringings in a matter of different ways, but...
And maybe genetics.
Yeah, who knows? We're brothers from another mother, but... you have a connection, right? And as weird as it sounds, that's really been the benefit for me too on LinkedIn, is meeting great people like yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
And then you make connections that are, more authentic, and you can actually promote who you want to be in terms of who you really are. And you find people who connect with you, and it makes so much more sense to just stay in touch, and it's so much easier. So for you and I to talk about music, dude,
right.
It's been a godsend, really.
Yeah, and that was the thing, is as we started talking more and more, I found out you played baseball at University of Iowa, I played soccer at University of Detroit, and and then, obviously music's a huge part of our lives, even though I never played anything, I've never sang, I've never done anything in my life, I just always fucking loved it.
Yeah, me neither. I'm terrible.
And then, once I started going to shows, that was it. One thing I did want to mention before we do move on, obviously I made the joke that Neil is not with us. Unfortunately, life got in the way, and he had to back out in the last second, so we got Jake, who we've known each other for 30
I don't know.
More than
Long
30
time.
years.
Yeah, at least 30.
We used to play soccer against each other when we were kids.
Fun.
We actually beat them in the state cup final.
On,
wait, time out.
Can
we clarify something?
Yeah.
Neil's alive, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Neil's
when you say he's not with us anymore, I don't want to scare people. And the tribute looks very oh my gosh.
The thing is, we brought the picture of Neil where he's dressed up as Danny DeVito, and the joke there is that picture has been in every single Two Dudes episode.
I love it.
But no one's ever said anything or that. And finally, I blew it up and posted, like on Instagram, like, for all of you who've never noticed, and everyone always says the same thing. I don't say anything. They look and they go, why do you have a picture of Danny DeVito? I'm like, no, that's Neil.
Or the guy from Minions, Gru.
Yeah. There's also a good one of him dressed up as Costanza.
I love it. That's what I thought originally.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
So, speaking of Pearl Jam, the reason we're here, you seem to be quite a super fan, to say the least, huh?
I guess, right? Like, fanatic is like where the word fan came from. And I think if you would put like the dictionary of fanatics when it comes to Pearl Jam, I'd be like in the top maybe 100,000, I don't know, 1,000. But
right.
I mean, I love this band, man. And, I say it not in jest. Like, in many ways, they saved my life, and I
know we're going to get into that.
Yeah, but,
bit.
like, the truth is, I've been going to shows, since the late 90s. And it's just been a great experience. And this will be show 68. And
that's crazy.
I'm looking forward to being at Deer Creek. I'm glad you called it Deer Creek, too. Like, what the hell's
well, you can thank that guy right there.
Yeah,
because,
what the hell's Ruoff? What the fuck is that?
Is that how you even say it? Ruoff? Hey, you guys going to Ruoff tonight?
Yeah. Do you have any idea? Is it a sponsor or something?
I'm sure it's somebody who paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
And,
Just like DT did the Pine Knob, and everyone called it Pine Knob, and guess what?
At least
it's called Pine Knob again.
Alpine Valley has held
strong.
True. Like, so shout out to them. Like, they're no longer, City Card Pavilion or whatever the hell it is.
Do you remember what your first show ever was?
Yeah, my first concert ever. Pearl Jam or?
No, ever.
Yeah, it was the band Chicago at a place that no longer exists, Poplar Creek Amphitheater in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. I went with a friend of mine.
Used to play against them all the time. What's that?
We used to play against soccer team on Hoffman Estates.
So yeah, State Hawks, I believe.
Yeah, that's right, exactly right. And but so there was an amphitheater in Hoffman Estates called Poplar Creek at the time. We were living in Streamwood, Illinois, and I had a great friend, and their family had an extra ticket, and we were hanging out all the time, and they were like, "Come on," and I'm like, "Sure." That was like the first concert I've been to, but the first concert I went to like by myself with some buddies, believe it or not, was Adam Sandler. At the Rosemont Theater. And they're all gonna laugh at you tour. And truly, that was the one they did an HBO special and they filmed it there.
Oh, really?
And and even though it was a comedian tour, like he was singing songs, and then I got my first invite to a Pantera show, and
that was it.
That was it, man. Yeah, that was
so
it.
you just
what year is that?
96. 96.
Okay,
yeah.
so that's like Volker Display of Power.
Yeah, just coming on to like the Trendkill. The Trendkill stuff was like more like 96, 97. I had no business going to those shows at that time. Like I was 14, and if you know anything about Chicago venues, they call it the Aragon Brawl Room. And it's, it's an old dancing ballroom, and the floor is still sweat, and when you got a bunch of guys moshing and beer being spilled, like not safe for anybody, frankly. But yeah, I'm so thankful.
That place is still kicking though.
Hell yeah. Aragon, oh yeah, I just went and saw a show. I saw the Black Keys there.
Oh, nice.
Recently, yeah, good place.
Was that before they canceled this tour?
This was COVID. Was the last before COVID?
Even before that, because
they
announced that big tour and then they canceled it.
Ticket sales are sucking.
Yeah. Well, there's so many shows out there right now.
There's too many.
There's almost too many, so you have to pick and choose, and then the Black Keys pop up, and you think, man, that'd be a good one, and then it's like low ticket sales, they cancel it or whatever. It's just nature of the beast right now.
Yeah, I just saw Helmet, too, was doing like a reunion tour, and they canceled a bunch of shows.
Local H
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
they canceled it, though.
Yeah. Well, the good news is there's never a risk of Pearl Jam ever having to do so because of low ticket sales, right? Like,
right.
It's like an impossible.
No matter how much, how expensive they are.
Or where they're playing, frankly, right? Like they just sold out Missoula of all places.
Right.
So. Now, tell me, Jake, your first time seeing these guys, or what's the story?
Pearl. This is my second time seeing them, but I haven't seen them since.
Well, we figured out it was 2003.
Okay,
that was the last time I saw them.
Was that a Grand Rapids show?
No, it was
Pine
Knob.
Pine Knob. Okay, outdoor.
Yeah, outdoor. We were just talking about that.
I can't believe
we were
it's
at
been
that same
long.
show in 2003. Well, it might have been a different one because they played two that night, or that tour in Detroit. But yeah, for me, this is only 4.
Nice.
And actually, the first time was at Lollapalooza '92, and I was 17, passed out drunk on the hill. So technically, I heard them a little bit, but I didn't really see them.
All right. Are we going to do a redo tonight of that? Is that the? No, you're driving
home. No, we got to drive home.
Listen, you're a trooper, man. Like, you could sleep on our floor or whatever tonight. Honestly, like.
I mean, if we have to, we'll just crash out in this hour down the road for a little bit.
A couple sleeping bags.
I
know.
You guys can consummate your marriage.
Man. Yeah, that's right. Well, you are looking mighty fine.
It's funny you say that, though, 'cause- not that part, but in the year 2000, you know, when the world was going to end, me and Neil ended up, I think we were in Chicago for New Year's Eve, and then we went to Mardi Gras.
Oh, gosh.
And we went down there, no plan. We ended up parking in a Holiday Inn parking garage, and we slept in my Explorer for the whole weekend. And then a few months after that, we ended up going to the Kentucky Derby. Just in case the world ended, we want to go out on a bang.
You did it outright. And truly, not to really kind of switch topics, but I was just at Mardi Gras. I was just at Mardi Gras this past year, not intentionally. I was down there. I got invited to go speak about mental health, and I get on the plane, and I'm sitting down. Okay, fine. And the girl next to me goes, you going down for Mardi Gras? And I go, it's Mardi Gras? And she goes, it was like a Thursday or a Wednesday I was flying in. And she goes, yeah, Fat Tuesday is next Tuesday. I'm like, oh. So I was in New Orleans for 3 nights speaking at a mental health conference in Mardi Gras, and they put me up right in the heart of the French Quarter. It was bad. It was like wild, good, bad, like all of the above. It was everything people think it is. Yeah.
Right. So we went that one time. It's something I would never do again in my life.
I wouldn't do it either.
Experienced it. I would love to go back to New Orleans, but just on a rando week or something, you know, where it's not
Jazz Fest.
I would go to Jazz Fest.
Yeah, that would be it.
You know, I would
Jazz
go to
Fest.
that. So the one thing we also talk about on our show is our Forever 5. Oof. So you're on a deserted island.
Oh, man.
You only get 5 artists. They're full catalog, though, so that helps.
Sure.
Who is it? And we've started our second line, so for your hockey fans out there, you got your starting 5, and then you got your second line.
You got the red line.
Over the board. Well, obviously Pearl Jam is 1 by far.
Yeah.
And if I could say 1 through 5, they'd probably be it. But, you know, Pantera would be in the top 5 for sure.
And I'm going to stop you there because you just went and saw Pantera.
I did, yeah, and I got to hang out for like a few minutes with Phil and talk a little bit about mental health, and I did, and they were opening for Metallica, of course, and dude,
I saw their video.
I saw that
you were
show.
right there.
Yeah, that tribute
That's at the
show.
show Detroit one.
Were you?
Yeah, that tribute. I mean, that tribute that they're putting together to the original formation now with Zakk Wylde and Charlie Bernard. Like, dude, it's fucking awesome, and it just feels so good to hear that music live again, and just to see fans react the way they always have, regardless that the brothers aren't there. So yeah, I did. I just got to see them. That was amazing. So they'd be top 5 for sure. You know, switching gears, Dave Matthews would probably be in there.
Okay.
I've seen them probably near 50 times now, and it's just a great environment.
Did you ever see just him and Tim Reynolds?
Yeah, I did in Northerly Island a couple times. They would do some of that. Never in that Riviera Maya stuff.
No,
though.
I saw the one at Pine Knob. Actually, I won the tickets on the radio.
Come on.
And the only time that's ever happened, I won them, so me and my brother went because it was right around his birthday.
Just the duo? Like the duo album
just
when it was
the two,
coming out? Okay.
Yeah, because he always used to buy those CDs.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh my God, I'd love to see them one day, you know? Yeah, and finally I went, that was really
good
cool.
album.
I hadn't seen them in years.
All right, so we're on 3. 4 would likely be Rage Against the Machine.
Okay.
I started going to their shows like mid-97, 98. I actually saw the show in Tinley Park where the original Wu-Tang Clan opened up for them. If you heard, like, there was a very short part of that tour, the Battle of Los Angeles tour, I believe it was, or it may be just in the Evil Empire in the battle, but the original all OG members of Wu-Tang Clan opened up for them. So you had ODB and you had Method Man, Redman. And that was the first time I ever saw an American flag burned in person, and I was like, and you understood what their energy was about at that point, you know, and so I've been seeing them ever since. So they're 4. Gosh, 5, that's a tough one.
Did they collab at all during that show?
No, they
That would
did
have
not.
been amazing,
Yeah.
right?
No, and I would say 5 is the Pumpkins, you know,
Yeah.
being a Chicago band, growing up with them, and, you know, having a small relationship as I do now with, you know, that family, and they've just been so instrumental beyond musicians in my life over the last few years that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Billy and his wife Chloe and the Pumpkins and all they've done for Highland Park.
Well, and that kind of brings up, you know, you mentioned, you know, mental health is a big thing that you've had going on, so I want to hear about that, and ties right back to Highland Park.
Sure.
And I think, you know, Billy Corgan, you know, had something to do with all of that as well, kind of in the after fact, right? So I'll let you kind of tell us what happened here.
Yeah, no, so, for those that don't know, unfortunately, on the 4th of July in 2022, I was a part of a mass shooting in Highland Park, Illinois. At the time, I was an employee at the Park District of Highland Park and served as the co-chair of that parade. And, ever since that day, for quite some time, I really had a struggle with my own mental health. PTSD, depression, insomnia, anxiety, all the things that one would imagine something would come about being in a mass shooting as I was. And I was like too proud, in many ways to be forthcoming about it. My dad will attest. Like, he had mentioned to me many times, like, hey, man, maybe you need to go see somebody, or hey, don't, calm down, and there was even times, unfortunately, I snapped on him. My dad's my best friend, and I told him to go fuck off, and that doesn't feel good.
No.
But as you go on and you start to realize where something like that is taking you, and you start to value your mental health, like, I've now been in such a better place, and my life is such on a different trajectory where I could hopefully leave that experience behind. And if not for music, in many ways, like, it wouldn't have been as easy. Not that it's been easy, but music has really been a catalyst to helping my quote-unquote healing.
Well, and music's been with you all along the way, even before that happened.
Yeah.
Right? So now you use it as kind of a therapeutic.
Yeah, and as we were saying earlier, I say, like, Pearl Jam saved my life.
Yeah.
And, when my experience after being in the shooting, it was a good 6 to 8 weeks where I wouldn't turn the TV on. And I still wasn't sleeping at the time, and the only thing that got me through was music, and so I'm up in the neighborhood at 2 a.m. talking to my buddy in Seattle, and then when he gets too tired, I'm pacing the neighborhood listening to music, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it kept me sane, and it kept me as positive as one could be through the experience. And let's face it, like, and it's a mistake. I wasn't intentionally wearing it, but this concert in the 29th of July in 2022, like, really helped be the catalyst to, like, that moving on. And that's the Together and Together Again show, and the best concert I've ever been to in many ways. But yeah, music has been, like, so healing, and it helps so many in so many different ways, and that's what I love about it.
Do you ever, it's such a positive for you, but was it ever a negative? Because you obviously are a fan of going to shows. So going back into a big crowd or that, like, how does that all weigh? Or
Oh, man, that's a great question. The truth of the matter is so, as I said, my experience July 4th, 2022. Speaking of Rage Against the Machine, I have had tickets for many, 18 months to their reunion, okay? And my experience happened, and their very first show of the tour, the reunion show, was at Alpine Valley. And I hadn't slept for 4 days, and I was teetering on, do I go, do I not? Like, and I decided, fuck it, I'm not going to let that experience upend me. And I went. It was the scariest thing I've ever been a part of, right? And another time, I'll just say quickly, my dad and I actually went to see Bruce Springsteen in Milwaukee, and we had great seats, side of the stage, and, we're having a great time, and I see a guy kind of in GA fall. He just fucking fell. And I'm like, Dad, did you see that? And he's like, what? No, my dad's watching The Boss. I'm like surveying the scene, and this guy gets up again. And I'm like, oh, maybe he just got hotter. And then he fell again, And without hesitation, I just literally turned around and just sprinted. And I ran up the concourse and got to the pavilion, and I, got as close to outside as I could. And, it's been experiences like that that's really, been unfortunate, but I'm now in such a better place that I haven't had some of those panic attacks in quite some time, and I'm able to come, to listen to, this is not a safe environment as far as I'm concerned. There's a bunch of drunk people and random trucks in the middle of Indiana where anybody can carry a gun. You know what I'm saying? Like, hear me out, right? And,
Absolutely.
And then in a couple hours, we're going to have 40,000 people all emptying like cattle, right, on top of a hill, right? But I'm now able to manage myself a little bit better,
right,
and understand where I'm at mentally.
And does part of it, like, as you enter a situation, surveying everything and having a plan, does that come into play? Does that help you calm down, and then kind of music starts, and it helps you almost at least forget about it for maybe an hour or two?
I lose myself. But, like, I always joke and say, like, I'm a seat snob. Like, I'm at the point in life, I've been to hundreds and hundreds of shows, and I've done everything from nosebleeds to the tippy top of the lawn to front row rail, like, and I'm just at a point now where I want to immerse myself. Mm-hmm. And I know now that to be able to do that, the better the seats I have, truth be told, the more security's around, mm-hmm. right? And if I'm on the rail, if I'm near the band, if I'm somewhat close to the action, not only am I going to have a kick-ass experience, right, and, like, love life in the moment, but dude, there's a lot of security guards around, and there's a lot of ways to get out, and so I feel better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, you're almost like the old veteran, right? You make sure that the exit is back, not to the door. And, survey the scene, and you know what?
True.
I do that shit all the time too, because you never know.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah, you got to now.
Right. I mean, you walk into a movie theater. Okay, how do I get out? You walk into a show. Where do I go? You know, and it's the first thing that you do. Even like restaurants. Right. You know, who do I have to push down and step over to get the hell out of this place?
Yeah.
Or who's the most dangerous person here?
That guy. I've got an eye on him.
that Maliszewski over there.
Yeah, he's crazy.
You know how to say his own name.
Hey, quick question about your healing. You know, you were talking about that music was your process to get through that.
It helped,
was there any track or a couple of tracks that, like, at your darkest days, at your loneliest nights, that you're like, I'm putting this on, and it resonated with you?
You know,
that one killer tune.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's always Hail, Hail for me, right?
Okay.
And the truth of the matter is there's a line in the song, Hail, Hail the lucky ones, right? And let's, I'm lucky to be here. You're lucky to be here. We're all lucky to be here. And so, using some of the words through that song, which is a part of my favorite album of Pearl Jam, of course, and so on and so forth. But that would be the one to just kind of keep me going, But listen, anything by this band is fucking impactful in many ways. And as we were talking this morning, I'm like a kid at Christmas, and to me, it's not just a concert. I've been to hundreds of concerts, and I just saw like Lala and Deftones at the Metro, and like that's a fun time. But like to me, this is an experience.
It's an experience.
It's a fucking holiday.
So
me,
I actually was at an experience on Friday. That King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard
Woo-wee!
acoustic show. Holy shit, was that amazing, dude?
Yeah.
And the venue is just a small little amphitheater right on the Detroit River. And there's no like back to it. So as they're sitting there playing, you see all the boats driving down the river and stuff. I mean, and plus the acoustic, right? They're only doing 2 the whole tour. So that was super cool. And I was telling Jake driving in that it almost set me up, I think, to become more of a super fan. Like my first time seeing him was the acoustic, where it was a little more laid back, super cool. But now it's like, now I got to see the electric side of this band, I
love it. And speaking of like newer bands and being a super fan, man, like, we got to talk about Freako.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Like hands down.
Yeah, he's talking about them today.
Another Chicago band. Like I want to give a shout out to Nico and Bailey and David and all the folks in Freako. Like another Chicago band who is making waves, like touring in Japan and 2 sets in Lala. Like, man, like that's a band like I'm going to start following a lot, and I hope that as they grow, their catalog becomes such that, like Pearl Jam, they don't have to have the same set list and the same songs regurgitated. Not that they're bad, but like they fucking got it.
What's their style?
Yeah.
Like, you kind of hate as a music person. You kind of hate when every time it's like, well, tell me who they sound like.
Right.
But I am kind of doing that.
But I am kind of.
Who would you say?
I mean, I don't know if I would say it as a person, but as a style, from what I watched at Lollapalooza, was like almost what Lollapalooza was made for. Kind of like the new up-and-coming, kind of like indie alternative acts, They're a 3-piece, right?
Oh, 3,
yeah,
okay.
kind of raw. And, I mean, just to me, it was great. Good stage presence. I just really loved that little show they put on because I missed the bigger set. And so they're playing the Majestic Theater in Detroit.
So you got to go, right? Please tell me.
Shit sold out.
Of course it did.
But that's what I was telling them. I'm like, this is like kind of this little up-and-coming band out of Chicago, and they sold out the Majestic. I mean, that's no joke right there.
Yeah. And then they played an after show the Sunday of Lala, so I saw them 3 days.
That's right.
Okay.
3
times in 2 days.
And I was like loving life. Like, they're just fantastic. So again, like
and they're like,
if
22,
there's one takeaway, well, I guess
kids,
let's say this: if there's 2 takeaways from today's show, is 1 is value your mental health, and 2 is see Freako.
Hey, just to be that sarcastic asshole, does Nico headline Freako?
Yeah, so Nico is the lead singer in Freako. Yeah. And he'll tell you the story, and he loves it. So yeah.
So I did. I reached out to him because of that show. I'm like, I want to go, and I want to see that theater type show out from them, And I heard right back from him. Said, hey, I saw you in Lala. I'd love to get 5 or 10 minutes with you. It's sold out, Of course, name dropped you.
Oh, and then he ran. And then he said, like, who?
So they've kicked me down all the way to the PR person, but he's like, hey, we'll move on this soon, stay in touch. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to work something out.
Dude, that's great. And honestly,
like I even said, I'm not fishing for a free show. I just want to actually interview them because I'm looking at them as kind of this up-and-coming band that could, almost like a Wilco.
That's a great example.
I mean, I saw Wilco on the second stage at Horde Fest, right when AM came out. And then they toured and they played the Majestic Theater. That was the first time I saw them like in an actual theater or whatever. It's like 1,000 to 1,500 people.
Yeah, shout out Wilco.
And then now here's these guys kind of going that same path. So
yeah, no, listen, and I'm glad that they responded, and it doesn't surprise me because that's the kind of kids.
And if nothing happens,
and
it's
I say
great
kids,
too.
like fuck, I'm 42, they're 24. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, they are kids.
They are. They are. But they're doing.
Kids.
But imagine this. Kids are living our dreams. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, how could you not support them? You
Absolutely.
know? Yeah.
100%. Yeah, it was a great energy at that little show.
Yeah.
You know, I remember walking by there when a bunch of people were playing. There was never that many people, and definitely it wasn't that that much energy going on there.
Yeah, I love it.
So what'd you think about Lollapalooza? What was your
listen?
It's your takeaway the one day you were there.
Listen, it's evolved, right? I think, like anything, it has had to. There's a lot more monetization to be had and things as such. I think it's gotten away, as you were saying earlier, like from its root intention. But I don't blame Perry. I don't.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And like,
no,
and so at the end of the day,
evolves.
like it's a celebration of all kinds of music, and to be able to see Frico and Skrillex and the Killers,
right,
all in one day, like, and to have different walks of life and different types of interests and passions about music interact in a safe, healthy way, like that's what it's all about. It's beautiful.
And I mean, to me too, just the whole setup of everything, the way everything operated, it was just top notch.
Yeah, and
I had no idea what to expect, and it was like I was there for all 4 days, and it was like, man, you couldn't have done it much better than they did.
Yeah, no, that's great, and that's that's what us Chicagoans are all about. Top notch. Yeah, top notch. Yeah, that's all it is. First class in Chicago. You Detroit fans over there.
I remember going to Chicago I would go like once a month for like a year straight. My buddy lived there, and God, I love that place. You know, and thinking like back then, where man, Detroit could be like this. You know, why isn't Detroit like this? But over the last 20 years, Detroit's really
it's coming.
They've definitely stepped up their game.
It's better.
Lot better than it ever was when I went to school down there in the 90s.
Sure. Yeah.
So
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so we talked, like the mental health, everything you've gone through. So out of that, though, has grown a couple of different things that you're involved in. I want to hear about that, too.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. First off, I was fortunate through my experience of coming into the graces of another mass shooting survivor by the name of Todd Blyleven. And if you're a baseball fan, Bert is his father. And sadly, Todd was a part of the incident in Las Vegas on 2017, the Country Music Festival.
Jason Aldean.
Yeah,
was on stage,
and so we have very similar stories. I don't compare trauma per se, but I was fortunate because of baseball and my time at Iowa. We had a connection where somebody thought highly enough of me to introduce Todd to me and vice versa, and we've been friends ever since. And through that, we developed an initiative called the Walking Tall Movement, where we promote mental health and vulnerability and approachability and utilizing resources that are available. Because let's face it, like particularly men in our demographic, like we're too proud, and so
absolutely.
We're really working to break barriers and break boundaries and destigmatize the help and the thinking nationally about mental health. And fortunately and unfortunately, due to our experiences, we have a platform. And so it's been wild. Like I've been in Seattle, I've been in New Orleans, I've been all over the country, frankly, to this point, speaking to different organizations about mental health and my experience, and utilizing something pretty shitty, like the worst day of my life, for something good, and that's really been a great passion of mine. And then speaking of my favorite song, that one song, I named my second organization Hail Hail Auction.
Well, that's good. That was the next one we were talking.
So I have a fundraising company now where I'm so fortunate to partner with great charitable organizations nationally to help develop fundraising plans, to help create awareness, to help manage social media efforts on their behalf. And then I even went as far to become a licensed auctioneer. So like now I'm on stage and selling shit and like raising money. And
we need a soundbite from that one.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling
you. Let me go. Give it.
It's wild. I never thought I went from the baseball field to the auction stage, right?
How long before you start selling hogs?
Yeah, no, it's so wild. You have to take this test, and a lot of it is like, it's a real estate license in Illinois particularly, but it's like a lot of farm stuff, grain math that you have to learn to pass the test. And I'm like, I'm just trying to sell like autographed guitars. Like, get out of here. But yeah, you're right. And if I could, I would sell a pig if I could, to help raise a buck for a good charity. So, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, what do you... since we're here at the Pearl, what do you want out of the show today? What's your expectations or anything that would just make the day, or are you just here?
My day is made by being on this show today. But
I get that. I get that from like all 10 of our fans.
Yeah, 10? I know how you dropped a 10 reference. See? Listen, I always say this, and I mean this with sincerity. Like, in my experience, the worst Pearl Jam show I've ever been to, and I could name it, I could pinpoint it, is better than the best concert of any other of those 5 bands I've seen, and I mentioned in my top 5, or any other show I've been to. So, like, I'm just going to have a good time.
Like
and, like I said, I'm in
anything's gravy for me.
Yeah, I'm in my element. Like, I'm with my dad. Like, what could be better? You know, like, aside from having my 2 kids here, like, I'm in heaven, bro. Like, so this is great. Yeah.
Right. So I think we're going to take a little break now.
All right.
And we'll have, I think we're going to bring your dad on, so we'll probably be back here with you for...
He's got a face for radio, so does the camera have to be on?
We got this special filter.
Oh, okay, good. We got a mask. We got a special filter.
It's the same one we use for you.
We'll be back here in a few, so everyone stay tuned.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, here we are back. And look, so we picked up another guest. We got Chris's dad, Rich, with us.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you, too.
Nice meeting you guys,
Obviously, I've seen all the clips and that where you guys are at shows and going to Blackhawks games, right? Season ticket holders. And so it's almost like I felt like I met you before I even met you.
Well, I got to ask you a question. If you and Chris are brothers from another mother, does that make me your dad?
Call me daddy.
I don't know, but my brain's starting to hurt.
Don't be knocking on my door at 4 o'clock in the morning saying, "You're my dad."
He's going to be the guy calling. I need to get bailed out. Hey, remember me, Dad?
Depends how much cash you have in your wallet.
What's your net worth now?
No, that's awesome. You guys made the trip in from Illinois. I think Arlington Heights area, Chicago. But I also hear you are been quite the concert goer your whole life.
Yeah. My younger days.
Yeah. So some bands that we probably are very envious of.
And probably some bands you never even heard of.
Yeah, I'd like to hear some of the ones. What were some of those shows from back in the day?
Well, I've seen The Who, I don't know how many times. Keith Moon, while he was alive.
Oh, wow. Which is special.
Yeah. They were like one of my favorites of all time. I've seen The Who. I've seen... Genesis. I mean, this is going back like from the 70s and 80s.
Genesis when it sold Peter Gabriel.
Yeah. And then he came along, and I got broke, so I couldn't afford to go to more shows.
I had one of those stretches in life too.
I'll remember, I'll just this memory of mine. My dad, he won't. I mean, he'll forget maybe, or he won't. But he was at Stevie Ray Vaughan's last show at Alpine Valley, and that's the last memory I have of. Or the first memory, I should say, of my dad going to a concert. Okay. And that was at Alpine Valley, Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and
Robert Cray. Yeah. And actually, I was going to bring that up. Today is the 34-year anniversary of Stevie Ray Vaughan's last show.
Oh, really?
The 27th. After the show, they were in the helicopter, and it was after midnight, so it was the 27th, and it crashed. And so I was there the day before.
Right after that show.
Yeah, I was there the day before.
That's kind of like the Chris Cornell thing, the Soundgarden. Remember,
were you at that show?
I was not, but it was
my buddy was.
Yeah. Was in Detroit.
Yeah. Shout out Jason Truffin, a good buddy of mine through Pearl Jam. He was at that show. Yeah, man. It's just like
it was it was one of those ones where I was like, it was a midweek show.
Was it an Audio Slave show?
No, it was Soundgarden. They were back together. They were touring. I want to say it was at something like the Fox or the Fillmore. It was like a real cool venue. And I'm like, midweek, I'll catch them the next time.
No.
And you know what? And then, of course, we know what happened that night. And ever since I'm like, you know what? If you ever want to go to that show, you can go to that show. Go to that show because you just never know.
Yeah. I saw this T-shirt one time and it says, "The only show I ever regretted was the one I didn't go to."
Yeah, absolutely.
That is perfect.
And that's how I feel about music.
Yeah, absolutely. So what else? Zeppelin, I heard.
He got that. He got that. I never saw Zeppelin.
I just make shit up.
Yeah. I've seen the Stones a few times. I mean, like I said earlier,
but
back in the 70s
these guys,
and stuff.
right, back when they were in their heyday.
Yeah.
Right?
Was Keith Moon the best drummer you've seen?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Supertramp.
Nice. He was stoned at most of the show.
Well, yeah, it's hard to remember.
Steely Dan?
Yeah.
No, I never saw
never changed shows.
I mean, we've seen the original Black Sabbath together, and we've seen, and that's been the awesome thing too through music. Obviously, you said we have Black
Queen. I've seen Queen when they were just coming up. I saw Queen.
Yeah, with Freddie too, right?
Yeah,
wow.
Seen Queen, Aerosmith when they were just coming up. And,
that was my very first show ever. Was Aerosmith.
Yeah. If I told you my very first show, you'd say, "Who are those guys?"
Who is
Lay
it?
it on me.
It was JoJo Gunn and Lee Michaels.
Don't
Who
know.
the fuck are those guys?
That's
Say
what
it.
I said. See?
Sounds like a WWE wrestler.
It was at the auditorium, and it was back. I mean, that was like 1970 or 71
Wow.
or something. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
amazing.
It was
That's
pretty
cool that you guys do that together.
Yeah.
You know, growing up, like, music was never a big thing in my house. You know, I don't remember like
crazy.
having it around
That's
all the
crazy.
time. But I also remember looking through like my dad's records, and there were some killer records too. You know. But we did take him to Crosby, Stills, Nash.
Oh, I've seen those guys. I don't know how many times. I saw them all together. I've seen them separately. I mean, they were
seen
one of
them
my
young?
favorite bands.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one of
Yeah.
my
We were
favorite
just
bands.
going to go to the Neil Young show in,
And he
in
canceled
Chicago.
it.
That's
right.
We were literally
I feel
pulling
like we
in.
went to that.
Yeah. So yeah, we went the night
So I
before.
Some of them stayed longer than others.
Yes,
but,
yeah.
But no, I've always loved those guys.
Yeah.
I saw Crosby, Stills, Nash once, and then Crosby, Stills, Nash Young once, and then I've seen Neil Young like a dozen.
Yeah, I've seen them all together, separate.
Yeah,
Crosby and Nash did tours, and I've seen. It was like anytime that they were around any of those guys, I went to see them.
Yeah, seeing that. I mean,
Clapton, I've seen Clapton. I don't know how many times too.
nice. I've never been a big Clapton guy. You know, you respect it, you appreciate it, but it wasn't someone I had to listen
Well,
to.
yeah.
you know?
The thing is, though, with Clapton, I mean, he's very blues based. If you
Right.
like the blues, man,
Yeah.
he's
Right.
you know the mainstream stuff is one thing, but when he doing the
I
blues,
saw-
that's a different.
I saw him live on that Pilgrim tour. Do you remember Pilgrim, the album Pilgrim?
No, I probably
like,
saw him,
yeah.
but I don't.
Like Babyface produced that whole album, so it was like, hey, it's like an R&B take on Eric Clapton.
Gotcha.
And people thought it was going to be a piece of shit, but it ended up being an amazing selling album. Worked out great.
Yeah.
That's crazy how that works
Yeah,
sometimes, you know.
I mean,
And that's the thing is music crosses everything, the genres, you know, and that's what we always say on Two Dudes. No genres are off limits with us.
Yeah.
Some we just like more than others.
Yeah,
but,
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, and same thing. I've been to so many different genres of music.
Right.
I've seen some of the great rappers. I've seen some great country artists, even though country's probably the lowest in terms of like
too.
on my totem pole.
Same
but I
here.
appreciate
Yeah.
it, right? And it's a great time, and I like to have a beer like anybody else.
Right.
So I'll party. And
EDM
tailgate.
for me, it's just.
Well, listen now, EDM. I mean, we were talking about being at Lala. Like
I understand it now, but still, there's something about going and watching
Now,
anywhere from
speaking-
3 to
Doesn't-
8 dudes or women, whoever's up there playing, and just, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of EDM, Dad, he doesn't even know. He's been to one of the greatest EDM DJs ever in Vegas, in
Oh,
Zed.
yeah.
Oh,
we
Zed,
went to
yeah.
Zed in Vegas for the NHL All-Star Game. A great friend of mine works in the NHL, and we had some tickets to go to some private parties, and Zed was headlining.
That's
And he was
awesome.
doing the stage and this and that. And my dad.
Your dad, you mean?
Yeah, my dad. Oh, yeah. I had the crowd dancing with all the women. He was dancing with all the ladies. And it was like a hit of the show. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's
So-
funny. But I actually saw Zed at Lollapalooza.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, I've never experienced EDM, especially when you're talking about one of the main guys, and then seeing Skrillex and Zed. I guess I did it right.
Yeah,
You
if
know,
you're gonna
that's
see
where,
that-
like I said, I
did
understand
you
it.
feel
I
the energy?
appreciate
Did you
it.
at least kind of get
Right.
the energy? Odd.
And you know what? If someone's like you said, movement in Detroit, right?
Yeah,
I've
I
never been to that, but now I'm like, you know what? It'd be worth going to just to hang out.
It'd be a shame not to.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
for you and I to be like 55 and say, we never went to movement.
Right, it's right in our backyard.
It's like your point to the T-shirt, right? Like
Right.
the worst concert. Is the
Yeah,
one I
right.
go to.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so true. There's a lot of different genres, and there's just so much good music to be had out there. you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Stuff that we haven't even heard yet.
So tell me, Cal. So you mentioned there wasn't music in your household, and I'll just say, if not for my dad, like I wouldn't have this passion for music. I remember going shopping, like probably at Circuit City when Circuit City existed.
Oh, yeah.
And we got our first tower stereo system with
Yep.
the deck speakers, and I just remember that experience. And then like putting the CD in, because at the time it was CDs, and then
You mean there's something else besides CDs now?
But truly, like, and
Your
so I
late
guess
track.
my long-winded story
those
is like,
first.
if you didn't have that upbringing,
35,
like,
35,
So,
35,
how did you get so
45,
passionate?
45.
See, look at these guys are already talking. Amateurs,
So
podcast
actually,
amateurs.
I went from albums to cassettes to
No, my question
CDs.
real slow is like-
no, I know, but there were some damn bands. I had the same album on 3 different medias because that's what I grew up through.
Sure.
But no, overall, my first concert was 15, but before that, really, my music exposure was through my brother.
Got it.
And
Where'd he get it from?
That's the other thing I can't really answer because we grew up in the same house. But I would say a lot of it actually probably came from because we both grew up playing soccer. So you're around, all different
people,
walks of life, different people, and oh, what are you listening to? Or you're warming up and you're listening to something. And back then, it really wasn't. You had your headphones listening, to your phone or whatever. You had a boom box. And
everybody had their
everybody
had their doors open, and they had their bookshelf system.
And if you were really put together, you actually put together like a mixtape with everyone from your team songs.
Time out. How many mixtapes did you all make for ladies back in the day, like high school girlfriends?
Not many, because I was married to soccer early. I was that age.
But no, that's a great point. Like, I played baseball, obviously, and back then, we had Discmen, right? Like, you put the CD in, you would travel, but it wasn't until I got to the University of Iowa, and we had a kid from Miami and a kid from here, and, Creston, Iowa, and you're hearing, oh my God, there's more than Pearl Jam and Pantera and Nirvana, because that's all I knew.
Right, you heard country, you heard rap,
and
R&B.
It's
like Dirty South.
And it's like, oh my God. And then I would, not that I always didn't, but when I got to college, you travel the country, and then you're going to play at Mississippi State, and all it is like bluegrass. And
right.
Like, holy and so sports are a great way to hear music.
And like I said, my brother he liked every kind of music. Not country back then, but he's a huge country guy now. And that's how we started Two Dudes. Was one night, we were partying, me and co-host Neil. It's like 3 a.m.
Who's still with us, by the way, but not with us.
He's with us in spirit. Still lives in that bag.
I feel like his ghost has been away for
this wall of like 500 CDs. So, we're just sitting there, we're going through them all, and that's where we made the perfect mixtape ever, and we called it Two Dudes. And it was 60 minutes each side. You could only have one artist on each, one artist each side, You could be on it twice, but only one each side. We were allowed, I think, 2 songs where if I said it's on, no veto power. Other than that, everything we agreed to. And then, 6 months later, we're in the same boat, and what do? We made Two Dudes Part 2. This mixtape,
awesome.
So then when I started coming with the podcast, I actually toyed with calling it Two Dudes Part 3. But then I figured you'd have to definitely explain everything, so that's what we called it Two Dudes and Killer Tunes, mainly because, we like to try to focus on live music, and you see those killer tunes. That one song that just, for whatever reason, just hits you that night, and it's like, man, that if they played no other songs, it didn't matter because that made the show.
Yep. Yeah.
And you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That one track.
I want to know one of those times that you had where you heard that. It doesn't have to be the best song ever. It could just be any time. Yeah. I'll go first. Here's an example. I saw Black Crowes not that long ago. And one great show. And hadn't seen them in ages. Second concert I ever went to in 91. I think I maybe caught them at a Horde or something, but can't even really remember. They're a great show, but they ended with White Light, White Heat by Velvet Underground.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, if I saw no other song that whole show, that made the night.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm looking for. It wasn't the best song I ever seen, but that's the one that stuck out in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say, hearkening back to Together and Together again, I was fortunate to go to both iterations, the private show and then my dad and I were in attendance for the live stream, and both nights when Billy played Aeronaut. And there's a line in that song says, "Lovers, won't you mourn with me?" And it was just so impactful. And again, Smashing Pumpkins top 5, not one, I'll tell you that. But that moment and that song, and it just meant something different,
right?
But
you've heard the song a million times. But that song, that moment, is totally different.
Then I'll say, you get these chase songs, and I finally, after like I said, nearly 50 Dave shows, I've always wanted to hear The Last Stop. And I wasn't at the Wrigley shows. I was still coaching baseball at the time. He played it then, and so you have this chase songs. Then they play it, and you're just like, "Thank God!"
Finally heard it.
So one or the other, this inspirational, but then the chase song. Yeah.
Right. Cool.
What's the chase song? I've for the
the
one that you don't hear much. Or something?
Okay, so I've seen Pearl Jam. This will be 68 tonight.
Yeah.
If I don't have a chase song at this point.
Okay.
Right. But if there was a rarity for somebody who's seen them multiple times, and you're like, I'm just dying.
You're chasing the tour, hoping to hear that play.
Exactly right.
Got it.
Correct.
A dead. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Actually, I had a buddy with Aerosmith. So they're doing the final tour, right? And now he's done though. They announced he can't sing anymore at all. And he's been chasing "Seasons of Wither" by Aerosmith
And
for like 3 decades.
Well, he's going to be chasing for
Well, so then he's watching as they're playing every single night. Season the Winner.
It's like,
right before they get to Detroit, they cancel the tour, because of his voice, and then they're like, "Oh, but we'll be back in January."
No,
and now it's done and done.
Yep.
So
Sad.
the chase is over.
Oh my God. That's awful.
All right, Dad. What about you? Like,
And actually, this is kind of weird because these are, I would have to say there's 2 of them that rank, and they're both pretty recent. I'd have to say Of the Girl and from St. Louis, it was just blew me away. And the other one that just really knocked me out was Dave Matthews' Fool in the Rain.
oh yeah,
All right.
And it just,
yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
they played that at the United Center that
Yeah.
night, it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not usually a fan of covers, but like,
that was,
See,
it didn't sound like a cover.
Yeah.
I love a good cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's done right, and,
Yeah.
and whatever. But I do love a good cover.
Well, I mentioned, the worst Pearl Jam show I ever have been to was 2018, the home shows in Seattle, night 1. And I think that night there was double-digit covers played.
Oh,
And
wow.
They were raising all this money for the homeless initiative in Seattle, which is a huge problem, like most places. But it was just an awkward show. Like, they covered I Could Tell We're Gonna Be Friends by Jack White, and like it was just an awkward vibe. And like, even so, they came out with some sort of statement about how they felt pressure and the vibe
felt
was
forced.
off.
Felt forced.
And then night 2 fucking blew the doors off the place, and like the place could have crumbled is how amazing it was. But yeah, that was the most disappointing show I've ever been
Interesting.
to. Yeah, wild. All right, what about, like, do you guys have a piss song?
Well, wait, I don't know that we've heard your.
Oh, I'm
Killer
sorry, I'm
Tunes,
sorry,
right?
yeah.
Oh, my story? I think it would be Metallica 1.
Ooh.
So that's
That
a
was
song that
recent when
you
you went.
really love. And it went to a Metallica show. Had been listening to Metallica forever. I'd gone to that show, finally building up all the juices. And then they...
All it is, you hear that
You know what I
first
mean? That's
part,
all it is.
know.
And you almost get the chills.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You're like,
You probably
"Holy
got him right now just talking
Yeah,
about
just
it.
thinking about it, and like, wow, that's amazing. The other one would be Steely Dan. I finally saw Steely Dan after a number of years, and they played Black Cow, and it was a song in my house that was played all the time. My dad listened to music, had albums, and had the covers out everywhere, and it was just like, and it meant something different than the music. It was kind of bringing me back to my dad.
Right.
So that's why it's crazy, like, as much as you love music, that your parents didn't lift it, because it was all
And
over my house.
You know what? I won't say, but
But at a
I don't
different
remember
level.
it being in the house. But
Yeah.
what I do remember is like being in the car driving a ton to soccer tournaments, and
Hearing it.
No, well, but usually what it was is we'd have our boombox in the back.
Oh.
And they didn't
That's
care
kinda
what we
cool.
played, so we'd be in the back of our minivan and we're playing NWA.
Yeah.
Too short, like
It's out of here.
because that's
sweet.
the rap that I grew
Yeah,
up on.
absolutely.
Like the old school KRS-One,
Yeah,
Eric B, Rakim,
Yeah.
But that was one thing they never
License
cared
to
what
Ill.
we listened to. It didn't matter what the language was like or anything. It's just music,
That's awesome.
And they grew up, heyday in the '60s, where that's what it was all about,
Well,
and same thing with movies.
Yeah.
My dad, I remember being like 8 years old watching Animal House with my dad, and it's, I'll never forget, we're at this party, and I might have been 10, my brother's probably 12, 13 at the time, and everyone, all the parents are outside, how that works, and then you're on the inside watching TV. Well, this guy walks by, says, "What are you guys watching?" And 10 and 12-year-old me and Paul go, "Animal House." He's like, "Oh, okay." And then I can actually even hear him. He goes outside, he goes, "Hey, Dave, do you know your boys are in here watching Animal House?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, that's probably like the 5th or 6th time they've seen it."
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, without my dad, and a part of, parenting, right? And I'm learning as a parent now, and as I know you are too, having your son on the show, and your daughter was the first co-host, right?
Right.
Like, there has to be this allowance, if you will, to explore music. And like I was mentioning earlier, Pantera, like, I was fucking 14 going to the Aragon Ballroom.
Yeah.
To see Pantera, one of the most violent bands of all time, in the most violent place in Chicago, with 2 potheads. Like, the list goes on. But my dad, like, trusted enough in me to make good decisions, and not that I always did.
Right.
But the truth was, like, if not for that freedom, like, I would be sheltered from a music perspective.
100%.
And like,
And then you're going to find a way to do it where it isn't as easy and open.
And
And that's where the problems really start.
And it's kind of funny because my parents didn't, they kind of listened to Perry Como and that type of thing. And my brother brought the Beatles in there. And you see him on Ed Sullivan, and my dad, I'm long-haired bastard, ruining our country, And so a few years later, he's listening to Iron Butterfly and In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. And I'm not kidding, he was. I love that album. I don't know if you ever heard that song or what it is.
Yeah.
The whole album side. It's one song, the whole album side.
Which I think it's over 17 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
so one side of the album.
It'd be like 30 minutes of the concert.
Yeah.
And it's actually In the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Is the true name of the song, right? But when they were playing it, it sounded like In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, so that's how it ended up on the name. But actually, it's like In the Garden of Eden.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, so it's...
I mean, it's true. It's
which actually, I'm sure you know this, but Mayonnaise by the Pumpkins is not really mayonnaise. It's My Own Eyes.
Yeah, okay.
And it's not spelled like actual mayonnaise. There's missing one N.
Interesting. All right, that's a pumpkin. That's top one for you. I mean,
they're like my number one.
I know.
That's a great
and I don't blame
track.
you. Yeah, yeah. I mean, but yeah, again, like if not for my parents, my mom, bless her heart, not that I always agree, but like she's a diehard Barbra Streisand fan, right? And like that's the truth. And I remember when we got that stereo system, like my dad would buy some Beatles albums and some Who records, CDs, and my mom was getting Barbra Streisand, and that was the collection, and it was a trade-off.
And that's when I told Chris, "Come on, you're learning how to play baseball."
Let's get you out of the house.
So you can't listen to
this. Let's get some dirt on you. Let's get some mud on you here.
Oh, you're left-handed pitcher.
It's tough.
Why did I think you're a shortstop?
Yeah, because I'm short.
Probably. Yeah. I was left-handed. So starter or reliever?
I did a little bit of both in my career. Yeah, I was an average college pitcher at the time. It was a -5 drop era, and it was now most of the guys who had come and gone in the big leagues were like Nick Swisher and like guys like of that age, Ben Zobrist and stuff. But yeah, dude, like playing college baseball, as playing college soccer is like one of the best experiences ever. And I always say...
So Jake played as well. So
is that right?
Yeah, so actually we played against each other when we were kids growing up. And then we played against each other in
I always got the better at Cal, always, every time.
Actually, don't worry, I'll post the videos later that Jake actually sent me.
Yeah.
And yes, he does get the better of me, but I try to blow out his knee as he's doing it. And then there's one where someone plays a long ball, and he's set up for this perfect volley. And I think you said it was either 1-1 or we were winning 2-1 at the time.
You guys were up, yeah. It would have changed the game.
Yeah. And he drills his volley. I save it.
Great
but
save.
Even better, I got all over that rebound.
Oh, yeah.
There's like two of their guys, and I got all over that shit. I couldn't believe
total fucking luck.
But when he sent me those, it was so awesome. Like, could you imagine?
Because it was like 30 years. You haven't seen that scene in 30 years.
Right.
Probably.
We were 16. I mean, it was 33 years ago. And like nowadays, all your shit's all over the place and this and that. So like to actually see something like when we played is like crazy.
Yeah.
And it's all grainy.
Well, you saw maybe on LinkedIn. We talked earlier about like our connection on LinkedIn, and I had seen a former classmate of mine in high school had put together this 10-minute video from his camcorder footage, and there was like a 30 to 40 second clip of me.
Oh, nice.
There's no sound because there's music backing, but it was me in the lunchroom, and I was wearing a 97 Pantera Trendkill shirt, and I'm like, I haven't seen video of myself from that era.
Right.
Maybe ever, and you get like goosebumps. You're like, oh my God, that was me. And now it's like my ass is on LinkedIn. You know what I'm saying? So it's just crazy, but you see yourself in that footage, and like it's like the Wonder Years. Right?
It's like an instant time machine. Seriously. How was I moving? What was
and that's what music is like, right? Yeah. You go to those concerts. I was at 98 Ozfest.
That's the whole point of the show. That's how the whole idea is. Get people on, talk about shows we went to and shit. You know, it's like, and that's the whole point. I mean, I think you've probably hit on it. Like, what keeps you going back? Well, it's for me, it's the people, it's the experience, it's the music, it's all of that together, and just that whole overall experience. You know, there's no other better word for it. Yeah. For me, that's what it is about
100%.
going to a show.
Yeah. I mean, I know we're kind of winding down because a certain band's getting ready to play, and I'm getting anxious.
Yeah, I know we're good.
Yeah, we're good. Still good. Oh, okay. Let me just.
He's a professional.
We can wrap it up and hang out for a bit. We're still good on time, so don't get anxious.
The truth of the matter is you're exactly it, right? Like I love going to concerts, right? Because there's a community There's a
Respect,
bond. There's a mutual respect. There's a camaraderie. There's this essence of like, hey, I got your back, you got mine, and then you go about your way and never see these people again.
Right.
Now, when you travel as much as I have with Pearl Jam, you meet great fans and you just stay in contact. And,
Right.
you know, but
Seeing the same people.
but yeah, but
over
it's
and
just
over.
like for one moment, for 3 hours, like 30,000 people.
Everyone agrees
all
on
the
everything.
same fucking
Right,
page.
right.
It's unbelievable. And it doesn't mean you always get on the same page, but for that moment you do, and that's what's most important to me about music. And then, aside from being just a aficionado, even though I'm not a musician, like the lyrics mean a lot, and I can make them my own. And then hearing a good solo, like whether it's drums or guitar, it melts your face. You know?
I love a damn great drum
Yeah,
solo.
how could you not?
Fuck.
How could you not? So.
If they play one, I can guarantee you're going to see a drum solo on YouTube.
How could you not?
Be one of the first ones I post.
Well, I showed my dad this morning. I was, not sleeping, scrolling, and I don't know about you guys, but I had seen some early Slipknot shows, late 90s, early 2000s.
I've never seen Slipknot ever.
And when their drum set, they would elevate, and my dad was saying he likened
Guy's
it to
kit was
Emerson, Lake and
ridiculous.
Paula.
Yeah,
And he
Carl
would
Palmer used to you would do
flip
that
and go
spin
inverted
around and
wild stuff. Great
That's
solo.
crazy.
ELP was no joke.
what's
Well,
that, sorry?
even
ELP was
no,
joke with,
no,
like,
no.
one of the best progressive.
Travis
bands of all
Barker
time.
at Lala, they just lifted him straight up, which is super cool because if you're way in the back, you could still see him going nuts up there.
Yeah.
I mean, Blink was an interesting show.
Yeah, they're kind of rude and crude and fun, and
Right,
but it's like anything else. You hear their songs and you're like, I know that one, I know that one.
Yeah, I
know
knew
that
so
one,
many
I know that
songs.
one, and
I
you're
would
like-
never call myself a fan, but I knew like 2/3 of the songs easy.
And you walk away and you're like, that was a good
And
time.
I never seen them, never heard anything about me. Yeah, like the rude and crude, which is kind of like childish,
Fun.
not child, like a high school humor. Some of it was pretty funny, some of it whatever. But that's
they're-
their stick.
But they're tight.
Right,
though.
that's right.
If
Yes.
anything, if you don't agree with the music and it's maybe juvenile, whatever, they're pretty tight.
I know
You
the
hear
band,
them play.
the music,
Yeah,
and
the
everything.
musicianship
It
is
was
like-
just their kind of band.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
actually, I found some of it kind of funny. Some was like, all right, come on, let's go.
Why wouldn't you? Like, I
Right.
mean, because it's funny. Like,
Right,
face it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And as I got older, I started appreciating different types of music and more music. It's like now I have a different appreciation for Michael Jackson.
Absolutely.
When he was just coming up and I was in that era, and I was like, fuck, listen to this shit,
Or even
now,
Prince, and then we
well,
have to look
Prince,
back.
he was a little different. Prince was
No,
a little
I know,
That
but
guy
like,
could.
so many
guitar,
people. So many people just put those two kind of one in the same,
yeah.
right? And it wasn't. Prince
Yeah.
was. I mean, his
There's a-
musicianship was insane.
Yeah.
So
It's like when you talk with anybody, they're like best guitarist of all time. He's in their top 5.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
wild,
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, for sure.
But I actually saw Taylor Swift was in someone's like top 15 or something.
As
Best,
what?
best guitarist ever.
I saw
Of all
that.
time.
I saw that. I didn't read it. I saw that headline. I didn't read the story. I thought
Listen, let's not take away from Taylor Swift.
Oh, no,
The
no.
last thing we want are the
No.
Swifties
No.
going after two dudes.
Hey, too. That'll get you a lot of.
You will be
likes.
canceled
That'll get
before
you likes.
we are.
That'll get likes.
No, we love Taylor Swift. Yes,
I
let's be
will go
clear.
see one of her shows in a second. Of
course.
I mean,
I
she's a
would
great
too.
entertainer. Just kind of the whole point there. And I was like, whatever.
Well, hey, real
We
quick,
love you, Swifties.
One common thread is that I've noticed all of us have said, yeah, I like country, but I don't really like country. So why? Like, unpack that a little bit. Because to me, it's like, it feels super, like, I like folk.
Yeah,
Which is
for sure.
like is like beyond country.
Now-
but I don't like the pop country where
Well,
it's
here's the thing.
sensationalized. I
Here's
don't
the
know if
thing.
that's how you
A few years ago, Foo Fighters came out with an album, and I can't remember the name of it now. But there was a special on HBO, and what they did for every song, they played a song in Nashville, and then they had.
I saw that, yeah.
Then they had
Callers or something.
somebody from Nashville explaining like the roots of it, and then they were in Chicago, but I was watching the Nashville one, and I thought that was the best one, and they had like a producer who I forget, and they talked to Dolly Parton, and Dolly Parton said, if I was just coming up now, she said, I would not make it. I can't sing this type. This is not country.
Right.
And there was a producer that said, all this is nowadays is just anthem music. It's not real country.
It feels like pop music.
Exactly.
With
Yeah.
an acoustic,
Country time.
with an acoustic layer on top of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Party anthems.
Yeah.
That's it.
Now you see
Yeah,
Johnny
they do.
Cash. I love Johnny Cash. I can listen to him.
Or like a Willie Nelson. Like
Right?
old
Yeah,
school.
that's
yeah.
almost.
You have
I
your
know it's-
old school
yeah.
country, right?
Yeah.
Which to me, and I don't know shit about it, so everyone might say I have no idea what I'm talking about. You have like the old school country that kind of almost, I don't want to say died, but went down a different path after like a Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
Like for me, he was like maybe the last true country
Yeah.
guy at first, and then they started having it was more poppy.
It feels tremendous.
You
And,
know,
I, and I
and
don't
then-
care for it. But I'll go to Nashville anytime and go to those bars and listen
Yeah.
to
Oh,
music
yeah.
all day
Yeah.
long. You know,
Songs are
yeah.
smoking.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I used to do a ton of work in Ohio, you know, like the farming country, Ohio, and you go to the bars and that's all it was country. But it was like the old school, you know, my tractor, my girl, my whiskey,
Yeah.
you know.
Borderline.
I heard if you play those records backwards, you get the truck back, the girl comes back.
Yeah.
Dog.
And then he's got a whole family, and then he's
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's hilarious. So yeah, actually, we probably do need to wind it down here, fellas. Chris, we've been talking about this forever. It's been awesome having
Thanks,
you
man. It's
on.
great meeting you.
Awesome
It's great
Um,
meeting you, man.
And I would love to do it proper the next time. Get
I'm
you in
in.
the studio in Detroit. Go catch a show when you're in town and do it proper. Rich, I'm really glad you came too. It's good
Well,
to
thanks
see.
for inviting me.
It's good to finally see
Your dad?
why this guy's the
bad.
way. I'm your dad.
Wow,
To
so
see why this
cool.
guy's the way he is.
Yeah, I treated all
So you finally see
That's what I missed.
it's me.
I love it.
But,
Listen, we have been planning this, and like I said, man, I've been looking forward to this.
oh, dude, I was like a nervous little kid before playing the big game again. You know, I usually get that for shows, but today was different. Like Cohen, the Pearl Jam, you know, you guys, and then, you know, not doing it on the road, because
Right.
that's always a whole nother layer.
Sure.
Like, do I see bars? Do I have sound?
Yeah, we worked. Is there internet? Like, we're in the freaking middle of nowhere. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Right now, so that's so cool. I was glad we saw each other in Lollapalooza, but that was kind of like a fleeting moment. So this is cool having you on and digging a little deeper on some stuff.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been an honor, and I can't, say enough about Two Dudes and Killer Tunes and all you guys do to uplift the music community and highlight, great musicians. It's something a passion of mine, and most importantly, man, thanks for all your support.
100%.
It's,
You know,
being
and
a
I
part
think
of
one of
Walking
your
Tall and
posts
Hail Hail,
for
like-
Walking Tall or something the other day and said, hey, how can two dudes help? We'll do
Yeah.
whatever we can, and it might just be keep putting out shows that you watch and enjoy listening to or whatever.
That's enough.
And if that's it, then hey, we'll keep fucking doing that shit for sure. Anything over and above, we'll have to talk.
There's a negotiation.
That I can guarantee that.
No, but it's been an honor,
Talk to my
man.
lawyer.
To
No,
meet your
absolutely.
beautiful wife as I did, and
Yeah.
Jake, to get to meet you.
Yeah,
Like, dude,
man.
thank you so much.
So
It's,
cool.
I
And
can't
then
wait, and
we'll
let's
make
have
sure
a
that
fucking great show.
We'll make
Yeah.
sure the next time we get Neil on, so you get the full experience.
Yeah.
He's still alive, right?
Yeah. Well, as far as we know. But since we've been recording, I haven't been on my phone. So.
Yeah, no, thank you so much.
No, absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
And the
Thanks for
most
having
important,
me.
let's have a great fucking show,
Yeah.
boys.
You have to be safe and have a
First
good
time
Yeah.
in 21 years for these two guys. So
Yeah, it's been
All right.
a long
All right.
time, man.
Let's do it, brother.
Excited.
Let's do
Love
it.
you, man. Love you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
Good meeting you.
See ya.
Thanks.
Take care,
Thanks a
man.
Thanks,
lot,
Dad.
man. Thank you.
All right, see
All
ya.
right.
All right.